Uh, huh? What? Hold on, let's check the transcript. Wait, what? No, that's... Dude, she's not even talking about an actual case. Oh, Tojo. This is... Huh? Okay, I think this is what she's talking about. This has to be. Military career. Oh, he was suspected of war crimes. What? No shot. This is the same thing. And then the dude tried to shoot himself? He shot himself, and then as he's bleeding out, he says, I'm very sorry it is taking me so long to die. The greater East Asia War was justified and righteous. I'm so sorry for the nation, all the races of the greater Asiatic powers. I wait for righteous judgment of history. I wish to commit suicide, but sometimes that fails. And then he recovered from it. Wait, and then he had a Morse code drilled into his fucking dentures? What? Crimes committed by Imperial Japan were responsible for the deaths of millions. Some estimate between 3 to 14 million? What is this? Huh? Okay, I don't really trust this that much. Okay, we're not going down that far. Okay, we're going back to this lady.
Yeah. And when he was liberated due to pressure by NGOs from Europe, he looked like an inmate of concentration camps, the Nazi, in 1945, the picture skeleton. Mm-hmm. He was a living skeleton. In the recent years, he got damage paid by the government, quite a huge money. So it is really a problem if, like today also in Russia, when the government plays the great inquisitor. Yeah, this is happening, and I don't know if this is accident or not, that it is China is infamous for religious intolerance and persecution. Falun Gong, we know hundreds, thousands of members Falun Gong disappeared. Many served for organ business to transplantation of organs. Yeah. Also other groups, Christian or not. China is uniting with Japanese communists to.
Okay, so like we should theoretically be able to figure out. She's an Austrian journalist. I should be using Chrome. Because then I can do this. Where is it? Stop. Where is she at? That her? I think it is. Okay. By being demonized for many years, Confucius wants to. Huh? UPF represents the talk on the return of Confucius to a position of respect in China despite being demonized for many years. Despite harsh winter conditions, the lecture room filled 2023. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. For the presentation of China's present ideology, communism plus Confucius, whatever. Confucius belief. Okay. Special honor to the presence of Dr. Marina, an internationally known cenotologist. What the fuck is a cenotologist? Oh, Chinese language. History. Okay. Demonized in 1950. Wait, main speaker explained that during the Cultural Revolution, Confucianism was demonized. In 1958, Mao said the first emperor buried Confucian scholars, but we have buried 16,000. This is not a contradiction because Confucianism is not a religion. Rather, it's a practical guide to how to run a country while adhering to certain ethical principles. Despite prosecution and re-education efforts, his teachings are engraved in the Chinese mentality, she said. Since 2004, about 1,600 Confucius institutes have been established worldwide, presently there, and 3 of them in Slovakia. Confucius institutions are under increasing pressure. It's feared that China wants to use these institutes to influence other countries or spy on them. An Australian journalist highlights Xi Jinping's family background and explains why Chinese Communist Party will hardly deviate from Marx or Mao. President Xi has warned repeatedly that the party would turn its back on them, but lose its soul and direction. Huh? Party has 9 million members, but it cannot be compared to a party in the Western sense of the world. It is more like an imperial army of civil servants raised by the spirit of Confucius and Jinping's personal philosophy, she concluded. Beijing will make a profound change only if it breaks with Marxism. What? Despite otherwise, something like Christian Putinism will appear. He also mentioned the tragic arrest last year of Cardinal Joseph Zen, the Catholic Bishop of Hong Kong, and how Christians are monitored and subdued by the regime. See, I don't know. I don't know about in China. She hardly goes out due to her tight working schedule, but it was a big exception. I decided to go to your lecture, and I'm very glad I made it. This one's a weird one. This is such a weird fucking.
Destroy the groups. There, various also presently Jehovah Witness are under heavy attack. Yeah, and there come people like factories or organizations, factories, and they are funded not only by the French government. They receive ruble donations. So my message is faith groups, in reminding me of Bolshevik revolution, they shouted, proletariats of all countries unite. I would say persecuted faith groups, believers of all faiths in the world, please unite. You are under pressure and attack. Sooner or later, all of you.
Thank you very much for your time coming here and telling.
Wait, is it? Okay, hold on. It might be because the thing sped up. It did a weird audio thing. Hold on.
Then donations. So my message is faith groups, in reminding me of Bolshevik revolution, they shouted, proletariats of all countries unite. I would say persecuted faith groups, believers of all faiths in the world, please unite. You are under pressure and attack. Sooner or later, all of you.
Thank you very much for your time coming here and telling viewers what actually we are facing, because many people don't realize that until it catches them.
Yeah.
So dear viewers, thank you very much for being with us today.
What does this have to... Okay, dude, this has to be a fucking... Has to be like a cult, dude. I don't understand it otherwise. Like, this has to be a cult, right? Like, what is the point of any of this then? Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll get back to this in another day.
Something very strange that happened to me the other day. But first,
okay, we're gonna look into Falun Gong stuff. This has been recommended to me by like multitude of people. This video was 5 years ago. You probably have actually seen. Give me 1 second. Second. Okay, here we go. Okay, you guys probably have seen this, right? Probably maybe last year's poster, but the Shin Yun thing. Apparently, this is something that like Bump mentioned to me like last year around this time. They make like a whole like nationwide circuit. And I've been told by a couple of people. Here's what I was told earlier. I'm sure you've seen this poster every year. Apparently, it's a religious cult called Falun Gong, and so I'm going to be looking into some of that stuff today.
Background. Now, I live in a big city, which means that the Shen Yun performers recently came to town. If you live in a big city like me, you are probably vaguely familiar with them. They are like a traditional Chinese dance trope thing. They were here in Vancouver during March, and during that time, they were really...
Wait, what's the poster look like?
Recently came.
Okay.
If you live
I wasn't
in a
sure
big
if
city
it
like
was
me,
very
you
similar.
are probably vaguely familiar with them. Vancouver during March. And during that time, they were really
so they do Canada too.
You'd go to the mall and they would have like a little table set up in the middle of the place with, you know, the brochures and like a little TV playing highlights from the show. Now, I don't know about you, but traditional Chinese dancing has never really been my thing, so I did not give the Shen Yun people that much attention when they first appeared. But at the same time, they were pretty hard to ignore. They had ads all over the train and in the newspaper and in billboards
The newspaper.
all over town.
I literally see this so much when I deliver newspaper. It'll be plastered on the top of the Omaha World Herald.
And after a while, something started to feel a little bit off about them. Like that maybe they were trying a little bit too hard. I was at Best Buy one day, and right at the end,
you've probably seen the posters that he's talked about.
They had a little Shen.
He's an old school YouTuber. Okay. I'm glad that we're all like some of us are on the same page here.
With the TV.
Like I said, Bump mentioned this group like last year when we saw ads for it, and I think we just recently saw ads for it at the Asian market.
And so I stood there and I watched a bit of the trailer, and it was pretty odd. They showed some testimony of people who were supposedly just leaving the performance, and they all seemed just a little bit...
And so, also, my thought process with going over some of this stuff is I want to do some research, put up notes together, and bring it up to Bump here in the next like week or two. I'm really, as like an episode.
Too giddy.
I'm incredibly inspired after coming tonight.
I feel 30 years younger.
Normally I'm bored when she takes me to these things, but I loved it. I could go another couple hours.
It was just amazing.
Huh?
See it 100 more times.
It's actually even worse if you visit the website. I've reviewed over 3,000 shows. None can compare to what I saw tonight. Go back and see it about 6 times, says Richard Conema, renowned Broadway critic. Go see it to believe it, because otherwise you are going to miss the most important thing in your life, says Joe Hurd, former White House photographer who watched Shen Yun 3 times. This is what he is credited as. I noticed a lot of the testimonials also made a big deal about how
Oh, I do too. I don't do it to mock it. I'll say it sometimes after they say it, just to
uplifting
appreciation, I guess.
The show is in particular.
I'm not trying to mock it,
a lot
though.
of the rhetoric is like,
I see God. I see the spirit of love and peace and the way that you would want the universe to be.
Now, as you have probably concluded by now, Shen Yun is actually just a front for a cult. Here is an excerpt from a review in The New Yorker. The dances continued, sleeves swirling, skirts rippling. A man came on stage to sing a song in Chinese, which was translated on the screen behind him. We follow Dafa, the Great Way, he began, singing about a creator who saved mankind and made the world anew. Atheism and evolution are deadly ideas. Modern trends destroy what make us human, he sang. That same New Yorker piece also noted that there isn't really even such a thing as traditional Chinese dance. The Shen Yun people just exploit the cultural ignorance of white folk to reel them in. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. You see, Shen Yun is run by the Shen Yun Performing Arts Organization, which is run by the Falun Gong. The Falun Gong is a Chinese cult started in 1992 by Li Hongzhi, who claims to be a supernatural being from another dimension sent to Earth to save humanity through a combination of breathing exercises and books on tape. The pitch is that if you follow Master Li's teachings, you can eventually cleanse your body of all weakness and illness and eventually transcend the fleshy prison of the cursed human world and ascend to a higher plane of existence where you can become a perfect godlike being, much like Master Li himself.
Oh no!
It's a lot like Scientology, basically. And much like Scientology, as long as you...
That's what, yeah, I see them everywhere in Omaha. If you're in a major city, you will see them a lot. They tour a lot of major cities.
Profess undying loyalty to the master, you will eventually be saved when the era of great cleansing comes and the enlightened are separated from the impure.
Oh, so you've heard about it. Interesting. Someone else that watches the stream recommended this to me. This morning I woke up this afternoon from a nice little sleep. Actually got a decent amount of sleep. We got more than 3 hours. I woke up and they're like, "Girl, have you seen this?" They're like, "Girl, I found something interesting something that might be interesting for you to deep dive on." And I was like, "Girl, get out of my brain," because I was looking over potential things to research. Now that I wanted to find something that wasn't as emotionally exhausting. Since we just got done with all the boog tent. The boog tent was super draining. So I was trying to figure out something that might be worth diving into that's not going to be emotionally draining. And this is what I decided. This is way deeper than I thought.
Includes things such as using medicine, homosexuality, and race mixing. So yes, the whole thing seems a bit nuts. But hold on to your hats, because it gets even weirder from here.
Oh, no.
You see, we are not supposed to say too many mean things about the Falun Gong people because they are so heavily persecuted by the Chinese government. Much like the Romans in Jesus' time.
Oh no, Nikki. I think it's starting to overlap. It's starting to overlap again, Nikki. Oh no.
The Chinese Communist Party considers Master Li to be a troublemaker whose
beliefs
could undermine their tyrannical hold on the public. So Falun Gongism is banned in China, forcing Mr. Li to preach his nonsense from New York, where he has lived in exile since 1998. According to Amnesty International, over the last 20 years, tens of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners have been arbitrarily detained as part of a...
Look, I want to make this clear. I don't have any intentions of stopping streaming anytime soon.
Campaign.
That is all.
Of intimidation and persecution targeting the group. Practitioners have been held in psychiatric hospitals.
Hey, does someone clip it so that we're all clear? It's all set in stone? Just wanted to throw that out there.
A form of administrative detention.
Or get too heavy in this? I'm just throwing that out there.
Review or sentenced to long prison terms. This is obviously very sinister, but the Falun Gong people think it doesn't sound bad enough. Master Li obviously has vested interest in making himself sound very big and powerful and threatening, with, millions of followers. And as a result, official Falun Gong propaganda, including the Shen Yun show, often play up their persecution to, cartoonish extremes. I remember a while ago, the Falun Gong people commissioned this flaky Canadian politician named David Kilgore to write a big report proving that the Chinese government had in fact detained hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners and was harvesting their organs while they were still alive. This is a very common Falun Gong allegation, but it is also one that human rights experts are pretty skeptical of, just because there's not really a lot of hard evidence. The Chinese government does have a gruesome history of harvesting and selling the organs of executed prisoners, but there is no real proof that the Falun Gong people specifically have been on the receiving end of this, let alone that they comprise the majority of its victims. It seems like a bit of a PR tactic of just taking one of the most sensationalistically evil things that the Chinese government has ever done and trying to conflate it in the mind of the international community with the more generalized persecution of the Falun Gong. But anyway, the point is, because we in the West do not really like the Chinese communists, particularly how little respect their government seems to have for the right of freedom of religion in that country. There has been a lot of pressure over the years to not be too critical of the Falun Gong. The thinking is that if we concede that the Falun Gong is a cult, which it very obviously is, we will be legitimizing the pretext that the Chinese use to suppress freedom of religion in general, particularly to Christians and Muslims. The Chinese state argues that religion is something inherently dangerous and subversive, and thus needs to be controlled by the government. And we in the West say, no, religion is good and harmless, even though we all know on some level that that's not always true. Religious groups can, in fact, be bad things, but the Chinese have gone way too far with this conclusion, and we don't want to give them any moral cover for doing that. As a result, when the Falun Gong is talked about in America or Canada or Europe or wherever, you are very likely to hear a lot of euphemistic language about how it is just a spiritual movement and this sort of thing. Governments in the West also tend to talk about the persecution of the Falun Gong as being one of China's most visible human rights abuses. The Chinese government, in turn, really, really hates it when the West does this.
By the way,
we are really enabling the...
we have like actual other things than just YouTubers for videos to watch for this
group that they see as a serious threat. Ever since Master Li's exile to America, Falun Gong has spent a lot of time...
What about his story? We have a foreign correspondent one.
And he seems to have been relatively successful. Here in Vancouver, for instance, which has quite a large Chinese population, you do often see Falun Gong demonstrations against the Chinese government in public protests and stuff. Sometimes they're camped outside government offices and things. The Falun Gong also owns a newspaper called the Epoch Times, which you may have seen. It's very anti-communist as well. But of course, nothing compares to the Shen Yun extravaganza. All right, now let us bring the story back to me. The other day I get an email from some guy named Franco, and he is like, I have a video I want you to put on your YouTube channel. I will give you $500 if you do. And this is very hilarious to me because Franco is very obviously just some sort of Chinese agent who is trying to rope me into some sort of anti-Falun Gong propaganda campaign. The video is terrible. It features a white guy sitting in what I can only describe as a North Korean news studio, blandly reading some script about how evil the Shen Yun show is.
I hope everyone can truly see the real purpose of this for and the hopes in this video to avoid feeling cheated in the future.
It is so obviously communist propaganda, it really boggles my mind that they thought this would be persuasive to anyone, or that you guys would just accept this if I put this on my channel. It is also a little bit insulting to me that Franco has done absolutely no research into my own background, given that a quick Google search would find that I have written some very critical articles about the Chinese government for the Washington Post. Now, obviously, I had no intention of taking Franco's money or playing along with his little stunt, but I did try to string him along for a little bit, just so I could learn more about this crazy scheme. I asked him if the money was coming from the Chinese government, and he denied this, but then I said, okay, so how about if I insert a little bit at the beginning where I talk about how evil the Chinese Communist Party is? And he was like, no, you can't do that. I also asked him about the guy in the video, if he maybe had his own YouTube channel or something, and Franco was like, no, he is just a small reporter. I think it would be cool to track him down, though. I suspect they paid him a lot, but I wonder if he regrets it. He's probably just some white guy living in China, and I know that they can be easy marks sometimes. If you guys know any good sleuthing techniques, let me know. Anyway, the point I am trying to get across in this video is that propaganda is a complicated thing. To live in the modern world is to be targeted by elaborate, expensive campaigns designed to change your thinking, while also concealing the hand of the person who wants to do that changing. It is also important to understand that propaganda lives in a complex ecosystem in which it responds to and interacts with other forms of propaganda. It is clear, for instance, that both Master Li and the Chinese government feed off the propaganda of each other, and this results in an endless cycle of disinformation in which it is very difficult to tell truth from fake.